Well, welcome everybody to another great episode of the Red X podcast. We are so glad that you could join us wherever you're joining us from, that you listen to your favorite podcast. And joining with all of us here today, I'm super excited to welcome Don Hobbs with us. Don, just say hi real quick to the audience. We'll let you
Hey,
introduce yourself in a
everybody.
minute.
Thanks, Robert. Appreciate it.
And I got to tell you, as everyone's hopping on right now, I'm personally excited about this one because we're always bringing the best minds in real estate on the show, and Don is one of those. But I'm in marketing, and Don is going to talk to us about marketing and branding, and he's an expert in those fields. So I'm super pumped to have you on the show today, Don, and learn from you. But before we jump in, just a couple housekeeping items for those hopping on. Go ahead and throw in the comments where you're listening from. Let us know that you're here. Say hi. And then throughout the show, if there's any questions that come up, we'll try to get to them during the show. So you just put them in the comments, whether it's on Facebook, on YouTube, wherever you're joining us live today. And then make sure to subscribe at redx.com/podcast so you know what's always coming up and you can stay current on all of the great guests that we're bringing you. But let's get down to business today, Don. Real quick, if you don't mind, introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about your story, because I think people will really quickly realize why you're the guy to listen to today.
I appreciate that. Well, I have long background. I've been training realtors for years, and I've trained just about coming up on 2 million of them. So we'll keep that number rolling. I hope for a good many years. I had the good fortune to have a very large branding marketing company in the real estate space called Hobbs Advertising. And we changed the game. Actually, a lot of what you see today came from that era. But I had good roots. I had a good startup with my first business venture was with Jim Rohn, and met him when I was just a kid, 18 years old. And aside from a big gawky kid that came about 3 months later, this big guy named Tony Robbins came along. So, and a few other big names that went on to do some interesting things all came out of that time. Jim was an incredible mentor. Of course, I was with him for 8 years, the last 2 as his president.
Wow.
So I had a lot of foundation in personal growth and, really developing quickly. So it wasn't 18, I was 18 plus all the books and experiences and things that I had done. So when we started Hobbs Herder, it was a real, jettison up. We really created a mark in the industry and became, we were putting about 50, 60,000 people a year through our programs. So we did some really fun stuff and impacted a lot of folks. And then I had the good fortune to be involved with a real estate company. We owned a 9-state region, probably more significant for some of your Red X listeners. I was Gary Keller's business partner on a project for a while. We actually did some great stuff around his magic book called The One Thing, which is still one of the better sellers in the world. Yeah. And so we got a chance to play together, but he and I had been friends for years. So we may get into something around that today, and then more recently, I became president of Success Magazine 3 years ago. And we've got, our expert partners, which we train and coach and really help agents elevate their business, elevate their game. And a lot of it is elevate their mind first, and then the skills and all that comes along with it. So that's the long and the short of it.
Yeah. So, the long and the short of it is that whatever you're doing in real estate, it's got your fingerprints all over. So who's ever joining us, they've been influenced in some way by something you've already done, and they might not even know it. So
they might not.
That is awesome. Thank you so much for taking time to join us today.
Thanks for having me.
So we want to talk a little bit. A lot of people jump in and, they get their license. And when they're getting that license, they don't talk a lot, hardly at all, about marketing yourself and growing your business and getting your clients. It's all about your contracts and signing the right papers, right? And so people get started and they say, where are these clients supposed to come from? How do I get people to know that I'm a real estate agent? So you've done this a lot, but maybe where should people get started? These people that are newer agents, or even people that have been around a while that say, I still don't feel like people know who I am, what my brand is, and what I'm offering.
Yeah, well, let's start with the fact that most agents don't think about having a brand, because if you kind of follow the norm of real estate, you get in and you go, what do I do now? And we do realize that licensing has nothing to do with actually being successful, right? There's no correlation between those two things. And so we start following people and they're, let's jump on the phone and make calls. And if you don't make calls, you're not going to, and there's whole systems around that. And I never believed that. I always believed that the way business works, I mean, if we look at business in the big world, I don't mean real estate, I mean business.
Yeah.
Nike doesn't call you and say, hey, we saw you running the other day. Those shoes are pathetic. Come and look at our new line. And Taco Bell doesn't call you and say, yo quiero Taco Bell. I mean, no company does that. The way they do it is they build a brand, and then we identify that we have a need for that product now. I was playing tennis when I blew up my Achilles earlier this year, but I'll need a new pair of tennis shoes when I come back. And guess what? I'll be going down and I'll be predisposed to buy the brand. But realtors don't think that way because they don't think of themselves in business. They're looking for the deal. And as long as you're transactional only, then that sort of makes sense. The challenge, of course, is, and I remember saying this to a gal not long ago, and I said, the truth is you're after your first deal right now. The challenge will be 10 years from now when you're still looking for your next deal, because they're looking so transactionally. It's always looking for the next client instead of how do I build a brand that attracts clients? How do I get something built so they see me as the answer to their questions, problems, their real estate needs? And, as long as you kind of look at the big picture. Now, that said, Robert, the other side of it is you have to look at the fact that while I'm building a brand, brands don't build overnight.
Yeah, that's right.
Right.
A logo doesn't make a brand and make people want to come find you. And
and it's more than just a logo. But again, the brand doesn't make them come instantly, although I got some interesting stories about that. But reality, we tell them, your brand's going to take time for it to sink in, for it to hit, for it to land with people. And they go, oh, that's my guy or that's my lady. He's my realtor, which, by the way, is interesting to the question of, can you be somebody's realtor before they need it? And can you have them identify you in advance as my realtor? Like, I'm not sick, but I have a doctor. Like, my taxes aren't due right now, but I've got a CPA. Just like professionals are in my life, but a realtor, we don't even have one. So what we do is we then go to Zillow, we look at houses and we get the lucky agent that comes along with it. Or we go look at open houses and we get the lucky agent that comes along with the house we looked at. And that's not a way to build a brand at all, right? That's a way of getting deals. And again, as long as we keep transactional, those are useful tools, and they're certainly useful in the early stages, especially because you've got to get business now. While you're building the brand for, Tony Robbins came and spoke for us last year, and of course, that super fun to have him come into our real estate company. But what was fun about it was he said, there's always two businesses: the one you're in now and the one that you're building. Well, the one you're building is the business. This is the tactics. This is the getting deals. This is the now stuff. So what you're really needing to do is blend that stuff. So whether it's expires or FSBOs, or whether it's calling on your sphere, which is certainly a genius place to go. They already know you, like you, trust you. You've already got some of your marketing stuff done with them. Start there, start the flow, but key, while you're doing that, what's your marketing strategy? Where's your target? Who's your niche? How do we think about who I am and what I want to do with my life? My marketing and branding company was to realtors. It could have been to CPAs. It could have been to interior designers. It could have been anywhere, but it was to realtors, right? So we made that choice. Why? Because my business partner was a broker. I had lots of experience through the Jim Rohn era with realtors. Real estate was emerging as an industry. Frankly, it was all mom and pops joining Century 21 at the time. So I know it sounds crazy, or ERA, or some of the big brands that were of that time. But what's interesting is you have to make that decision about who's my target. And we chose realtors because I felt comfortable there. Who you feel comfortable with? Like, who's your, maybe you came out of a past occupation. You go, wow, I came out of the medical industry or the medical device industry, or, I ride Harleys for a living. There's all kinds of money in the Harley world. Why don't I go figure out how to get to those people? So niches are interesting because, they can be defined through people or properties, but we got to have that and then start something, because if it's going to take months, we got to start now. And then it takes months, and then that starts to feed me leads, feed me come list me's, feed me we see you all the time. Wow, you're knocking out of the park. Come do it for us. Right? And I think that's really the key.
And I like that. And I think, we know in the real estate industry, there's high turnover. And so people are trying new things all the time.
Right.
But a brand does take time to build, like you said. So what would be some advice you'd give somebody that, like, let's say they started down the Harley Davidson and they're 6 months into it, and then they're like, actually, I think I want to be a luxury agent instead. So maybe I'll try that. How, like, can people be trying different niches at the same time? What would you recommend? Be like, hey, whoa, slow down. And this is what it takes to build a brand. What advice would you give to someone that's go, and but a brand takes time?
Yeah, ready, fire, aim.
Yeah.
And again, that's one way that people do it. And I think the other thing is really sexy is you watch programs and you go, oh, she's going after this market. I love that. I could do that. And then you hear somebody else and you go, oh, I love that. I could do that. You're going to make a decision. You're going to choose what you do. You're going to commit to it, right? I'm just going to tell you. Yeah. And it's hard because you go, but what if I give up all this business? And first of all, the laughable part is I always tell people, you don't have that business now. So you're not giving anything up, right?
That's right.
You're doing nothing. You're new. You got nothing. So start somewhere. But I think it comes back to almost anything has got potential, but there are things like I usually ask people, go give me 3 ideas for what you could specialize in. Give me 3 different options, right? You're in Austin. I've got, lakefront, lake view, lake, whatever, things around the lake lifestyle. I've got, hill country. I've got downtown. Let's just pick those as big generalizations. Which one do you like best? Well, I love the downtown lifestyle. Do you live downtown? No, I live out in, I live up 20 miles north of there. Well, okay, that might not be a good thing for you. Let's pick something that's more what your lifestyle is, who you are, right? And it's not just pick the price range and say that's what I'm going to do. Yet it could be. It just takes sometimes more time, energy, and we've got to get our heads wrapped around what is it I need to look like, be like, and is that authentic for me to get to that other market that's not who I naturally am. So I usually give people that assignment. Go get 3 things, write about them, talk about them, do some research on them, see if there's a way to figure it out. And by the way, let's not rule out geography, which is the old style of let's knock on doors, but we don't have to knock on doors. We can knock on minds, right? We don't have to knock on doors. That's pretty old school, but we can knock on minds, and we can knock on minds through direct mail, which is still a little bit old school, but I'll tell you, the number of articles, the number of things being published about that right now as its comeback is amazing. Yeah. And then of course there's the social media stuff. There's so many ways of marketing ourselves today that just opens up every possibility. But I think you have to get down to, pick some, let's do some research, and then let's commit.
And then commit and stick to it, because changing around, then you'll never get the benefit of the work that you're putting into it. I totally agree.
3 feet from gold, right? You've heard the story of 3 feet from gold. I was right there, but then I went somewhere else. Yeah,
that's right. No, that's great. And we talked a little bit, pre-show too, is that this step's really important because you got to figure out who you're going to target. But again, we're still thinking of now business. I need transactions now, which are important. But there's this step that comes in about developing a strategy and how you're going to talk to them that I think gets jumped over. We both talked about that can get jumped over when we're single focused on the now business. How can an agent that now says, okay, I'm going to focus on these 2 neighborhoods that are close to me. It's this kind of there are these kinds of homes in these kind of price range. What's the next step that they go through to make sure that they don't jump ahead of the game without establishing that brand and getting a strategy?
Oh, I'm not sure where the fall down there would be. I think, if you picked a neighborhood, and again, I don't care if it's near you or not near you, it's easier than having to drive 20 miles. But the point is, it's a kind of person. Maybe it's a price range, which again relates to a kind of person, right? I've got new starter homes, first time buyers that came in there, a younger crowd, potentially. Is it, the younger families, by the way, in that becomes part of my strategy. Is it a more senior marketplace? In that becomes part of my strategy. How do I get to seniors versus how do I get to families? How do I get to, so that the target dictates the strategies. And that's why it's so important to have one. And what most people do is they go, well, I'm going after everybody. If they can fog a mirror, they're my client. I'm like, no, I don't think so. I think that makes you average and just like every other realtor searching for the next deal. Right. So I think if you can get to the place where you've made the conscious choice, the decision about how to get to them becomes next. And of course, you're dealing with small families. You might have soccer games going on and soccer moms, and you've got, maybe you're sponsoring teams and there's things you can do around that. Maybe there's a website you can set up or a Facebook group that you can set up around that. So the target really dictates, like, what are my options?
Yeah.
Right.
And I love that, because that is the next step. And but it all comes from you deciding who you are and who you're targeting.
Yep.
Because then once you know who it is, then you find out where they are. Like you said, the soccer games, and you go there. You're not forcing them to come to you. You get to go to them to get in front of them and speak to them. What are some of the, I mean, obviously you've trained a lot of people, but what are the mistakes you see these agents make? So you've given them advice, or maybe they've been trying stuff for a while and that's why they come to you. But what are the biggest pitfalls? What are those mistakes that you see that you're like, oh, if you would just do these two things to stay away from it, then you'd be a lot further along down the road.
Yeah, not making a decision is the first one. Not choosing something is the first one. Because again, I'm gonna practice do my practice for a while. I'm gonna do my practice for a few months, a few years, then I'll make a decision. Well, you won't, because you'll be in a habit of generalization, be in a habit of doing these varied things. I show up for Chamber of Commerce meetings. I go to these things. I do this stuff, all unrelated, all disjointed, all just hunting and pecking for the next deal. And you'll never, come back. So I always say, make the commitment, just make the commitment, decide. You can change. I mean, if you made a wrong decision, you can change. But you have to realize, if you do the research up front, and if people need help, I mean, they should reach out. I'll be happy to give them some framework around that. But the fact is, I think once you've made those choices, everything becomes clearer. Once you've made the commitment, by the way, then there's no options, right? The opportunity is, this is what I've decided to do. And with that, like, this isn't interesting. I remember one of our guys, Robert, it was interesting. We had a guy in Philadelphia, Alan Dom, and he was known as the Condo King. And in one building, so this was written in NAR, Realtor Magazine was written up in that. Out of one building, 53 listings were taken 1 year, 53 listings sold in that building. 52 were his. Okay. So I've never met a realtor with 97% market share except Alan Dom, awesome. Except one guy, right? So then you go to the next building over, because now I've dominated this building. I need more space to expand. Another building like it, and you just keep gobbling up. But one of the things the article went on to talk about, and we used to talk about this with him all the time, is I've got people that own the penthouse, that own a vacation property that's 30 minutes from here, that's like green fields and all that stuff. And this is downtown. I won't take those listings. Like, I'm the condo king. That's what I do. And I always come back to, how many babies does a neurosurgeon deliver in a year? How many foot surgeries does a baby doctor do in a year? And the answer is none, because they made their choice. That's what they did. They made the choice. They made the decision, made the commitment. That's what they went for. And everything gets poured into that. Everything comes through the filter of that. Every opportunity comes through the filter of that. And things then aren't like, even tools, you should buy this, you should have that. Marketing idea. Yeah, that's great. Not for this market. That's awesome for this market. That's good. Not for this market. So you don't get distracted with stuff, because you know that things are either a fit or not a fit. We're not just grabbing at straws looking for, like the claim on almost everything that's sold is, with just 2 deals, you'll pay for this. You'll get your money back if you just do 2 deals. I'm like, hey, how many things do I have to own and just do 2 deals to pay for those? In the real estate world, instead of just landing and building a business, growing a brand.
I love that. And the focus of it, it sounds so simple, but it is the hardest decision to make, right? Because suddenly saying no to things is more important than what you're saying yes to. And it's really hard to say no to things. It's hard to say no to something that has been successful for somebody else. Or, I love the story that you just shared about the condos, because I think most people are like, well, I'm going to take any possible listing I can have. Yeah. But this condo king, he says, no, this is what I do. And he's an expert, and he gets, what do you say, 52 out of 53 listings?
97% market share in one building.
Yeah. If you were doing that in a neighborhood or not, then why venture out? But you have to be focused to do that.
Yes.
So I love that advice.
And by the way, it doesn't matter if it's condos is easy. In fact, Allison, my beauty queen upstairs, she is, we're going after the condo market at Austin, Texas. We live in Puerto Rico, by the way. So we're not always there, but her niche was that. And I remember when she first started, and she had a very similar experience where a guy calls and says, hey, I see you're the Condo Contessa, which was her thing, her slogan, her logo, and all that. And I'm going to come back to a question you asked me too, by the way. But he said, we've got a family realtor, but she doesn't specialize in condos. And I thought that was a really interesting comment. It was the first piece she ever sent out. So she had no brand except that it spoke for itself.
Yeah.
Right. And the second week, somebody called her from Dallas and said, my friend who lives in the building, I own a condo in there. My friend told me you're the condo, didn't know what it was, Condo Contessa, but it was, you're the condo queen or whatever she said. And Allison took that listing. So it's like, if you do it right, it could be that obvious. And if you don't, it takes a little time to build something. But this could be geographics, it could be kinds of people, could be kinds of properties, coastal, golf course, could be, again, doctors, could be medical, could be teachers. I mean, especially teachers come out of teaching. They know teachers. They know how to get paid. They know how they think. They know how they, like, it's easy to find them. It's easy to get, trust, credibility. So again, I think you need to find something that's your story that feels real comfortable.
Yeah.
And then dive in.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, you said something about the what are the things that they do wrong. I think that many people also, I answered part of it, but I want to come back. I think part of the thing is that people think a logo is their brand. I think people think their picture, that they use the same picture over and over again, that's their brand. It's not. A brand is really much more than that. It's what you stand for. It's how you show up. It's the words that come out of your mouth. It's the videos that you're shooting. Like, you're creating a brand in so many things. It's communicating this big picture message that's more than just this. And,
right.
A little headshot doesn't make a brand in any way, shape, or form. In fact, it's pretty boring.
Yeah.
So,
And I mean, I would think, and I've seen that too, is that is a big mistake people make, is that they spend an afternoon coming up with, how to write their initials really cool, and their headshot, and they say, I've now branded myself. That is my brand, and that's what I'll use over and over again. And that's why what you're saying is, it doesn't happen in an afternoon. It happens over a long period of time as you establish who you are, what you do, and what principles you have. And it happens over and over again because you have to live that. You have to be that. It can't just be a picture. And so I really, really like your advice there and what you're saying about that, to help agents understand what it's going to take to build that reputation.
Yeah, reputation takes time. Brand is a little less time, but the reputation is through long time. That's where your reviews start showing up. That's where your testimonials start paying off. That's where all that stuff, and then it just starts to add up, because there's this big overarching brand, and then there's the pieces of it. Like, I do social media, and I do this, and I do this, and I do this. But everybody goes, you need videos. Okay, I'm going to shoot some videos. About what? And for whom? Who cares, right? So there's the big picture, which is the big decisions, and then everything else becomes a part of that, or much easier because of the framework you've set.
Yeah, it actually makes those decisions easier because you've made the big decision up front of, this is where I'm going to spend my time and money. These are the people I'm trying to get in front of. And then you can evaluate the tools, the strategies. Does that help me get to this audience? As opposed to, does it help me get business? There's a lot of tools that help you get business. Does it help me get in front of this audience that I am trying to get in front of?
Totally.
Yeah, that makes sense. I like that a lot. And so what that first step then is deciding what you want your brand to be, is choosing your audience, and then you go into those strategies, the tools, everything else, but you have a framework to make those decisions.
Right. And once you've made the brand, you've decided the brand, you've got listen, in the real world of marketing, you've got brand standards, the fonts you're going to use, the color schemes you're going to follow. I mean, all your things look like all your things. And they go, oh, it's him again. Or it's her again. It's her again. It's her again. Instead of, oh, look, a realtor. Oh, look, a realtor. Because I know people that have marketed houses for years, and people don't even get the connection that, oh, he or she's been here for years, because they never established that. So I think there's some real wasting of money if you don't pour it into an ongoing brand that will pay off for years and years and years, and get stronger and stronger through markets. Like, by the way, in the changing market, who do you think's winning? Those with no brands, who came in with almost no skills 2 and 3 and 4 years ago. Sorry, guys, I'm on your side. I'm your fan, but I'm just saying, if if you came in and they were falling in your lap, you didn't have to do any of this stuff.
That's right.
Right.
And we see that, I mean, with the tools that we help people with, and that really help build your brand when you're using the Red X tools. We see that as that there was a lull where people said, I can't even get signs in the ground. I don't need to do all that work right now. And the market changed, which it always does. And it's a skills-based market right now. And those with established brands, established systems, they can do that. And going back to something that you said, a lot of people say, well, I'm going to sell a house for anybody. And the problem is that you have two finite commodities to use, your time and your money. And unless you can afford to be on every billboard, every radio station, every TV station, every sign, whatever it is, and then have the time to follow up with everybody that sees that, you can't pick everybody as your audience. So this isn't just a nice idea to choose an audience. It's literally the only way to have a sustainable business is to choose your audience.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And I think it's going to be real interesting to see what people take from this, because I've got friends I've got two friends that go after dog friendly markets. I mean, you think it's got to be like me, the professional. It's like, no, it's how do people think? How do people like you and relate to you? It's like we got a friend here that has a new little dog. And I said, you should take that thing with you everywhere you go, because everybody's going to stop you and then build everything from that. And we actually just wrote some ChatGPT blogs from the voice of the dog of the owner, right, for the newsletter that they were sending out. So it's like, you can have fun with this. This is really becomes your lifestyle. It becomes what you're about. It's really you. It's your authenticity, right? That's what makes it great.
And we've talked about this a little bit before, but people love authenticity. And so you don't have to go after the biggest piece of the pie out there. You go after authentically who you are, and there is a niche there of people that you're going to be able to talk to and relate with, and they're going to relate with you and want to have you around. So I love that. Now we're getting a little bit short on time here. But I want to make sure, because we talked a lot of different things, mostly honing in on your audience, but you have so much more advice and knowledge than that. What's something that we didn't get to talk about, or some last words that you'd love to leave with those tuning in now and listening wherever they're listening to the podcast?
Big picture. I think I said at the top of the hour, you're looking at how to build a business, not just how to get deals. And I think that's first mindset shift, right? I'm looking to grow a business. I want to be a business owner. Study business. Don't study realtors. Most of them are broke. Sorry. Study business. And then if you study business, you start looking for leverage. And, leverage, I look at personal development because I hung out with Jim Rohn so long. I looked at how do we grow ourselves and become more and see more opportunities, see more options. Personal growth is one. Two is marketing. I believe in marketing from the get-go. I used to say to people, I don't know what your problem is, but I know the answer is marketing, because it is for everything. It is for servicing. It is for past clients. It is in every aspect, how we get clients, how we keep clients, and how we continue with clients, right? It's all marketing, retention, hiring agents, all of it, recruiting, all of it. It's all marketing. And then you got process and systems. Look at your process and systems. Don't do one-offs. If you do it twice, you need a system. It's like in everything in the business is pretty clear. This is not a hard business. It's not simple, but I mean, it's repetition of the same stuff over and over and over again. And then the fourth and final part is you leverage yourself through people. And I think, two things I would say. One is we forget that the gig economy allows us to expand and grow through lots of people that we could not afford in the past. That's one thing. And of course, I have to just say, in this time frame that you're watching this, the world of AI has just opened up a whole new world. And I just did a ChatGPT program last week and presented that you have 8 employees, and here's their jobs, and here's what you ask these different 8 personas, from marketing assistant to my blog writer to my video editor and all those people are in, that's right, AI, right? They're all in artificial intelligence. So we can leverage ourselves in so many ways, but think business. I hate to say it, read the book, The E-Myth. It's been around for 100 years, but not really, but a long time. And it just lays out, it's not being good at what you do, it's being good at the business of what you do. It's being good at what you do is critical, of course. Yes. But you've got to be good at the business of what you do.
Yeah.
And if I could get that through to people, I think then marketing makes sense. Then the longer term approach while you're doing short-term stuff for survival. And then just remember that you're bigger than you know. If you haven't done well in real estate, you probably have beat yourself up. If you've not done well in life and you're trying a new start in real estate, if you've done really well in real estate, maybe you've got a good self-confidence. But so much of that is what's going to dictate whether you remember how powerful you are. And we're extremely powerful beings, and we've got a great opportunity to do big things. And this business is a 7-figure business minus the mistakes we make and the things we don't do. So there's the challenge, right?
I have too many minuses on my ledger. I need to get rid of some of those.
Yeah.
Don,
hey,
I love it.
They can go to donhobbs.com. Of course, they can look at my site and
that's what I wanted
they've got
to know
some
next.
special reports and some free stuff. And in fact, the new site may have just come out. I didn't look, but it may have come out today or yesterday or tomorrow.
Oh,
but as like the brand new site's coming out. So,
there we go.
Yeah.
Special for all our listeners, brand new site, Don Hobbs, 2bs.com. Can find out more about Don. Don, thank you. I know we barely scratched the surface, but
I'll come back. Come invite me, please. I love to, Robert.
We're going to have you back. I'm going to just maybe you'll be my personal coach, and I'm going to have you on. I'm going to say it's for the podcast, and I'm going to interview you to get all this good information because I love it. It's been great. I know our listeners today, and then this will get played over and over again as valuable content in how we can grow our business in the real estate industry. Thank you, Don, for being here. Thank you, everyone else, for being here. And please make sure to stop in at redx.com/podcast so that you know what's coming up next and never miss another episode, and keep listening wherever it is that you listen to the podcast. We appreciate your time. Appreciate everyone joining in. Everyone have a great rest of the week, and we'll see you next week.